Around the time that Aristotle was writing his Poetics, across the Mediterranean on the continent of Africa, a wealth of localized performance traditions had already been passed down through oral history, art, and traditions for lifetimes, changing with each performance as communities evolved and history shaped the land. Each style a single thread in the numerous and culturally rich tapestry of traditional theater that existed in pre-colonial Africa. If one wishes to be flexible in their definition of theater as simply any performance involving costumes, music, acting, dance, or other spectacular elements, there is evidence of dramatic spectacle dating back to the Egyptians in the rituals and ceremonies performed by Egyptian priests during events like the annual Osiris Passion Play, which appears to have dramatically depicted the death and resurrection of the aforementioned god of the afterlife. Yet, it is important to note that this passion play, despite the name, very likely did not fit the traditional model of Western theater, as these performances were distinctly religious in purpose, not for entertainment, but to preserve order within the cosmos, and reinforce the divine right of the pharaoh. Furthermore, it is only recorded on this single stela, drawing question to the specifics of its undertaking. Yet pageantry and ceremony was nevertheless entwined with Egyptian royal and religious life, with coronations, festivals, and even funerary rites depicted with theatrical elements integrated into ritual, such as music, costume, and symbolic gesture. Yet, even beyond the pyramids of Egypt, many in Africa utilized theater in a variety of daily functions. Amongst the numerous and diverse peoples of West Africa, the telling of stories had been integrated into daily sociopolitics by the time of the Malian Empire, and likely even before, through the existence of the griot, a class of artisans who inherited their craft over generations, and are known even today as the preservationists of oral history and cultural fables for their communities, as well as, historically, their royalty.
A griot is somebody traditionally who would sit in the king's compound, especially those days we have the Mansas in the Mali Empire. And the griot is the man who sits down there, who knows the history, who knows every single story that is important, relevant for that kingdom. And that's the difference, that kingdom.
Griots utilize song and movement in their tales, playing instruments like the traditional kora or balafon, in concert with symbolic gestures to relate the experiences of past generations during situations of need. Contemporary scholars have compared them to the court jesters of Middle Period Europe, or the bards of Ireland, but the comparison fails to capture the diversity of roles the griot played, from religious to political to archival.
Un griot est la bouche, l'oreille, les yeux du peuple mandingue. Ce que le peuple a besoin de dire, c'est le griot qui dit ça. Ce que le peuple a besoin de voir, c'est le griot qui voit ça et puis il rencontre ça, il dit ça. Ce que le roi ne veut pas entendre, c'est le griot qui lui fait entendre ça. C'est ça le peuple veut.
Colonial influence would gradually marginalize the presence of the griot in the political realm as colonial presence cemented. Yet the griot would adapt to the changing culture nevertheless, and remained historians to West African society. In spite of colonization, conflict, and time, griots maintain a cultural presence in this region to this day, telling the ancestral tales of their forebears as they always have. In the Central African region of Cameroon, theater had integrated into everyday life before and throughout the colonial period in the form of traditional ethnic rites, and even the art of puppetry in some groups like the Bamum or Beti. Events, both religious, celebratory, or otherwise, were marked with ritual theater that honored the ancestors that came before them. This ancestral focus can be best seen in the Cameroonian use of masks.
This is what we call in the Bamileke kingdoms the Nile Society mask. Each mask here was used only by the owner. Those people always come from the royal family or important people in the tribe. And many of these masks was used by people who have visions. This one here has owl feathers. Owls had visions and power. That's why they added into this mask.
Though it is worth mentioning that the ritual masks did not always take human form, but those of spirits, animals, or otherwise, often entrusted to esteemed caretakers and always given life through performance. Even more somber occasions like funerals were marked with dance or ritual drama. Some fraternal societies, like those of the Bamum people, would initiate members through rites involving a puppeteer manipulating a puppet head in a dancing rite, a motif repeated in various mediums with articulated limbs and bodies sometimes being attached. In South Africa, the Zulu people, native to the eastern coast and modern-day KwaZulu-Natal, have long held a powerful and global cultural presence achieved through years of conflict, colonialism, and a concentrated effort to preserve their tradition. Many in the West know of Zulu song and dance through dramatic depictions in films like Zulu. Yet performance was more than musical in this region. The genre of praise poetry, or izibongo in native Zulu, maintains itself in native South African culture to this day through modern poets. In the tradition, a poet or imbongi dedicates a speech of praise to the king, spiritual leader, or other revered individual, chaining names, titles, and metaphors together in order to extol the achievements and occasionally critique the deeds of their poem's subject. The performance itself is vibrant, full of emotional intensity, vocal dexterity, volume, and is spoken rhythmically to enhance the effect.
Wena mamonga, we mamonga, we mamonga, ndlove mnyama ya sondini, ndlove mnyama ya sondini, ndlove mnyama ya sondini.
Ufane ndlove mnyama sondini, usila nankutsiphili, enye nke wankela tshani, enye nke sepha nganomo, umkhwasi kadinga sinqapheli, inkone nesinga.
Izibongo, despite originating from a society before colonial oppression, endures as a genre to the present day. Like many other native performance styles, transformed over time and reinvigorated in the wake of 20th century decolonialization, alongside countless other types of traditional African theater forms such as the masquerades of Sierra Leone and Ghana. The Nigerian total theater of Kwahi rose to prominence during the 1960s, far from being lost to oppression. Traditional African theater has continued to grow, as theater often does. However, it's about time to get back to the other side of the Mediterranean, where an art form truly lost to time once graced palatial stages fit for emperors. It was a decadence that would become legend. And though these people's might and influence would touch the shores of Africa, their conquests are not what we shall focus on. Next time, we look at the theater of the Western Roman Empire.
Lesbiat quamemus rumores quesenus everiorum omnes unius aestimemus assis omnes unius aestimemus assis vivamus mea lesbiat quamemus rumores quesenus everiorum omnes unius aestimemus assis omnes unius aestimemus assis. Passia mille dende centum de mill'altera de secunda centum dendus qualtera mille dende centum dami passia mille dende centum de mill'altera de secunda centum dendus qualtera mille dende centum encum millia multa fecerimus encum millia multa fecerimus dami passia mille dende centum de mill'altera de secunda centum dendus qualtera mille dende centum dami passia mille dende centum de mill'altera de secunda centum dendus qualtera mille dende centum encum millia multa fecerimus encum millia multa fecerimus. Babimus illa nesciamus, aut nequis malus invidere possit, tantum sciat esse passiorum, tantum sciat esse passiorum.